Hi everyone, and welcome to Jane Talks Trek, where I'll be talking about and reviewing an episode of the original series, The Next Generation, Voyager, Deep Space Nine, or Enterprise. Today, I'm looking at Who Watches the Watchers from The Next Generation's third season, or as I like to call it, that time Picard was treated like a god. This episode was requested by Marty Knoll, so let's get going. We begin the episode with a captain's log over some unsettling music, and then a lot of techno nonsense about their mission. And wow, Worf looks weird here. Maybe because I've recently watched him in DS9, which was 7 years after this. They get a phone call needing help, so Data suggests they speed up, and Picard agrees.
We're on our way.
Jesus! Their camouflage fails, this guy climbs out the window, and they lose the transmission, so Picard orders more speed, and into the credits we go. A rescue team beams down to help, although Riker chooses to stare out the window instead, while some natives notice an unusual light and go to investigate. The guy peekaboos through the window and sees some weird shit, and when Data spots him, he accidentally electrocutes himself and falls pretty badly, so Beverly rushes to help him, and they're both beamed away. The camouflage is reinstated, which confuses the girl, while Beverly tends to her patients, and Picard tells her off for violating the Prime Directive, and orders her to wipe the guy's memory. The guy wakes up and overhears the name Picard, so Beverly sedates him, and Picard tells her off again, so he's beamed back down to the planet. He calls out for his daughter OG and tells her he thinks he went to the afterlife, and wants to spread the word to the rest of their people about the great Picard. While up on the ship, they're still trying to locate the guy that disappeared out of the window. Is Data leaning on a model of a Borg cube? They think he may have taken shelter in a cave, so Troy and Riker, dressed like Beardy Link, beam down to see how much they've screwed up this culture, and talk loudly about their customs as they clomp across the plains. They reach a settlement where Liko is telling everyone about his experience, which proves that Beverly screwed up the memory wipe, but this lady calls bullshit. So Deanna steps in and claims it was all a dream. But no time for that. Missing crew guy is dragged in, so Riker calls Picard with the bad news. Science guy wants his friend back, but Picard says they can't risk contaminating things further, so Picard asks Riker to try and sneak Palmer out. He gives it a go, but no one will listen to him, maybe because he's the only one with a furry face, so Deanna causes a distraction and leads the group away, while Riker ties up this poor old man, but is caught by OG, so he makes a run for it and is able to be beamed aboard. The Mintarkans get into a discussion over their religion, and Liko wants to punish Troy to appease the great god Picard, but for now they decide to just hold her prisoner. The science guy suggests Picard go down to the planet as a god, but he thinks it's ridiculous.
Dr. Baron, I will not impose a set of commandments on these people.
But the guy argues that they've already sparked religion. If they don't maintain it, it could devolve into war and chaos. Picard wants to find another way, so decides to abduct the Mintarkans' leader, Nuria, who acts like an owl, and then bows down to him.
You must not kneel to me.
You do not wish it?
I do not deserve it.
Picard tries to explain that he's just a regular dude, and shows her planet, which she's mesmerized by.
I never imagined I would see the clouds from the other side.
Then we get an amazing conversation that is worth watching the episode for, where Picard asks Nuria what her ancestors would think of her if she saw her living in huts and not caves, wearing clothes and not leaves, and hunting with tools and not her hands, and compare that to how Nuria sees him right now.
I do not fear you any longer.
An unexpected lightning storm freaks out the Mintarkans, who can't find Nuria, who asks Picard to resurrect 6 of her people who died in a flood, which disappoints Picard as he realizes she doesn't really understand what he was getting at. With no sign of Riker or Palmer, Liko wants to execute Troy, while one of the science team is about to croak, so Picard brings Nuria along to watch, which makes her understand things.
They're just as powerless to prevent the inevitable.
Troy is about to get offed when Picard shows up, and while he and Nuria both try to explain the situation, Liko wants Picard to restore his dead wife, and to prove he's all-powerful, Liko plans to shoot him, and he's like, sure, bring it on, but OG intervenes and Picard is non-fatally shot. Hey lady, that's not how you do live long and prosper. With the Mintarkans now fully understanding the situation, Picard says goodbye to them all and is gifted with a nice little tapestry for the road. I've got to say, I nearly abandoned this episode as I'm sensitive to flashing lights, and there were 2 major instances of them in this episode, which is why I will never cover the Enterprise episode Impulse. But I managed to push through by not looking directly at it, and I'm so glad I did, as this is a fantastic episode. I am shocked that it's not rated higher, seeing as it's reminiscent of Voyager's highest rated episode, Blink of an Eye. Before we get into the story, there are a few things that are worth pointing out. Ray Wise, who played Liko, also appeared in Voyager playing Arturus in Hope and Fear. The set of the Mintarkans' planet is reused from the showdown in Arena, and the tapestry Picard is given will appear many times throughout the show's run in his quarters. Now onto the story itself, and I love it. It centers around the Prime Directive, which are always interesting episodes to watch, and Patrick Stewart is on fire in this one. The easy option would have been to let the Mintarkans believe in the Overseer and allow them to reignite a long-forgotten religion and cleared out. But Picard chose the often overlooked route of telling them the truth, something that Archer decided not to do when he and Malcolm got caught in the Enterprise episode The Communicator. As I said, the conversation between Picard and Nuria is worth the price of admission alone, but they make it even more in-depth when Nuria still asks Picard to resurrect people, proving that she doesn't truly get it, and the disappointment on Picard's face is a great piece of acting. I like how they subverted expectations a couple of times, having Nuria be the leader of the Mintarkans rather than the older man, and she goes to take the arrow for Picard, which is what you would expect because she's expendable, but Picard shoves her out of the way and gets himself shot. I love Picard in this episode. He's dedicated to upholding the Prime Directive and is willing to do what it takes, even lose his own life in order to put things right. I really, really like this episode. Seriously, go watch it in its entirety for yourselves. So there you have it. That was Who Watches the Watchers. If there's an episode of Star Trek you'd like me to cover, then pop it down in the comments or come say hi on social media. If you enjoyed this video, then please hit that like button, it really does mean a lot, or consider subscribing if you want to be assimilated into my channel. Alternatively, feel free to check out my other YouTube channels, Jane Talks Real, Jane Talks Murder, and Jane Plays Games Badly. Thank you so much for watching, I'll speak to you soon, and live long and prosper.